The shiny red T-Bird convertible is a nod to its owner's Detroit roots. But it's in San Francisco that he first made a name for himself. He had quite a name to begin with.
It's so arrogant to have a name like Brilliant that I put sometimes Brilliant and sometimes Not So, and that's what I sign.
The memoir Larry Brilliant is autographing chronicles a life of unusual paths, a civil rights and anti-Vietnam War activist and hippie who helped eradicate smallpox from the world. Today, he's an advisor to Silicon Valley philanthropists who are helping him tackle other major diseases.
In the last 30 years, we've had 30 pathogens, viruses, jump from animals to humans. We know some of them: SARS, MERS, swine flu, bird flu, Ebola, Zika.
It all began in 1969 in San Francisco, where Brilliant had come for an internship after medical school and volunteered for an unusual assignment at the recently closed federal prison on Alcatraz. The island had been taken over by a group of about 100 Native Americans, one of whom was about to have a baby.
She wanted to give birth on Indian liberated land.
He delivered the baby and returned from the island a month later, covered in the blood from a patient he was evacuating to a San Francisco hospital. That got him on the evening news.
That night, somebody from Warner Brothers saw me on television, and they called me the next day and they said, we're starting a movie in 2 or 3 days. We're going to be gathering at the same place I got off the boat. And it's going to be a movie about hippies and rock and roll. It's going to have the Grateful Dead and the Jefferson Airplane and Pink Floyd. And we have one doctor, but we think we ought to have 2 doctors who are rock doctors who can manage the tent for anybody who gets hurt and also can play an extra.
The movie, a sequel to the highly successful Woodstock film, was a box office flop. But Brilliant forged friendships with some of the era's iconic figures.
What we have in mind is breakfast in bed for 400,000.
They included the Woodstock MC, who became famous in clown costume as Wavy Gravy.
This is Wavy Gravy. I am so honored to meet you.
Mr. Honored, pleased
I'm
to
Tom.
meet you.
At 80, he slowed only physically. The friends still gather often and recount their adventures, including a journey across Europe toward India. They had planned to feed flood victims in what was then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh.
And the idea was that we had so much media from doing the free kitchen at Woodstock that if we got there and started feeding people, that they would embarrass the government. My God, there's hippies doing it. We better do it better. And that was the plan. But then the Indo-Pakistani war broke out, and we hung a left, took a Kathmandu. And
for Larry Brilliant and his wife Girija, this was a transformative journey. They became disciples of a spiritual leader or guru, Neem Karoli Baba. Were you able to converse with him in Hindi?
Yeah.
Yeah. They studied meditation and Hindi, a big asset for the assignment he would soon receive from the guru to help eradicate smallpox in India and Bangladesh, which were among the last holdouts for the virus that had killed 500 million people through history.
During the Summer of Love, when I was cavorting with my friends, 2.5, 3 million people died around the world from smallpox. Bad disease, most people thought it could never be eradicated. We had had a vaccine for 200 years. And what we were doing is we were vaccinating everybody.
That strategy worked in the West and developed countries, but could never work in India, he says, with a population then of 600 million people, some 20 million of whom were on a bus or train on any given day. The hippie doctor coaxed his way into the World Health Organization team that took a different approach, tracking down every single infected person and vaccinating everyone around them, creating a so-called ring of immunity so the virus couldn't spread. It was a Herculean task.
We had to visit every house in India every month for 20 months. We made 2 billion house calls, 150,000 people, doctors from 170 countries, every religion, every race, every language, every geographic area, all working together.
Smallpox became the first disease ever eradicated from the planet, Brilliant went on to become a leading expert on infectious disease, a consultant to the White House most recently when Ebola threatened to escalate.
What is it going to take to prevent an outbreak?
Today, Larry Brilliant heads a group called the Skoll Global Threats Fund, which is focused on issues like climate change, nuclear proliferation, and pandemics. It is an affiliate of the Skoll Foundation, which is also a funder of some PBS programs.
It's about detect and report.
These epidemiologists are setting up pilot studies to gather data in 28 countries, trying to determine early patterns of how a disease breaks out.
Wouldn't you like to create advisory panels and partnerships with tech companies, major universities, epi departments?
Brilliant has raised millions of philanthropic dollars for other efforts that include the Save a Foundation, an eye care charity now in several countries that he started with Wavy Gravy.
It's probably one of the coolest things that anybody could do is to reach around the world and help somebody that's blind not to be blind anymore, and we've done that 3.5 million times.
After the smallpox campaign, Larry Brilliant began forging ties in Silicon Valley, where he's been a kind of guru to many tech industry leaders, including the late Apple founder Steve Jobs. The two men met in the 70s here in India, where both had come seeking spiritual harbor.
And certainly has not been boring.
And that Himalayan ashram experience remains a guiding influence today for Brilliant and his wife Girija, who retains the Hindu name given to her by their guru.
We have Shiva and Krishna to welcome you.
The Brilliant home is replete with symbols that reflect a wide embrace of all religions.
There's so much to learn about ethical behavior in the Bhagavad Gita, the Talmud, all of the Old Testament, the New Testament. I love Mark. I mean, it's hard for my Jewish friends to understand because I'm Jewish. Why do I feel so close and like Jesus so much? To me, clearly, the greatest man that ever existed. And in Islam, there's so many wonderful things in Islam.
It's a perspective forged in the spirit of the 60s, a decade of social upheaval, but one that he says was filled with hope for harmony.
When I was with Neem Karoli Baba, he would always say sab ek. It
All
means
one.
they're all one.
From the deck of his home, I asked him to read a passage from his book that summarized the era.
It was neither all Martin Luther King nor all Charles Manson. We came of age sexually in the golden era between the advent of birth control pills and the epidemic of HIV/AIDS. Spiritually, it was like a greenhouse in which the most beautiful flowers blossomed alongside the most vicious weeds. Progress demands that humans try to create better conditions for everyone, and change requires risk. What I have learned is just this: leave room for God, leave room for love, and never, ever lose your sense of humor.
The book is called Sometimes Brilliant. For Religion and Ethics News Weekly, this is Fred de Sam Lazaro in Mill Valley, California.